Thanks, Minister, and thanks, Chair. Minister, there's been an enormous amount of frustration in relation to the lack of progress around the medical cannabis access programme. And obviously the first time the access programme was muted was back in 2017 in relation to the report by the HPRA. And since then, you know, as I said from the outset, there's been a huge amount of lack of progress, and back in 2016, 2017, and since then there's been a huge amount of, I suppose, campaigning by families and individuals in relation to getting access. And the majority of people that had campaigned have got it via a licence system. That's not perfect by any means, but they have, at least they have access. And obviously the whole idea of the medical cannabis access programme was to give individuals access via prescription. Now, to date, only 50 people have got access. That's a tiny, tiny amount of people, considering that the programme was up and running for 2 years. And I think from the outset, we've always said that the programme was extremely restrictive in relation to the conditions that it's stipulated under. There's a huge amount of evidence that, you know, particularly around neuropathic pain, that medical cannabis can be very, very beneficial. So we'd hope that those that are campaigning for a long time around this, that the programme, I know it's been reviewed by the Health Research Board, that the review will support and recommend the expanding of the programme. Because if it doesn't expand, I think it's redundant. It's literally redundant if it doesn't expand to other conditions. There's also kind of major kind of issues around who can prescribe medical cannabis. Because the programme itself is a good concept, but it's extremely onerous on the consultants that are registering their patients on the MCAP. And you know, consultants will say that to you, that there is a huge amount of paperwork in relation to registering patients and the paperwork that goes with it in relation to access. So I think the main thing that we're calling for those that have been campaigning for better access, is the expansion of the programme. It should be GP-led rather than consultant-led, because consultants, at the best of time, are very, very hard to kind of, you know, to see in the first place. And I think that kind of, that restrictive process as well needs to be looked at. And, you know, there is another kind of issue in relation to lack of access, is where people have to go to the black market. And that is a very kind of onerous thing to do, where you have an illness and you are actually relying on the black market. There's even people that go abroad to get access to medical cannabis, and the worst of all is that people have to go abroad. And that's just not acceptable. You know, this programme was set up to give people access, as I said, via prescription. But at this moment in time, Minister, it's too restrictive, and hopefully the review supports and recommends the expansion of the programme. So others, particularly, as I said, neuropathic pain, chronic pain, that can get access. Because otherwise, I just think the programme is standing still, and it would be largely redundant if it doesn't expand in relation to the 3 conditions that it stipulates. Thank you.
Deputy, for your question. I'm taking this on behalf of Minister Stephen Donnelly. The Medical Cannabis Access Programme is operated by the Primary Care Reimbursement Service of the HSE, and is a statutory programme to enable clinicians and patients access prescribed cannabis-based products for the treatment of 3 specific conditions, as specified in the HPRA's 2017 report, Cannabis for Medical Use, a scientific review which was commissioned by the Minister for Health. So the 3 conditions are spasticity, associated with multiple sclerosis, resistant to all standard therapies and interventions whilst under expert medical supervision, intractable nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy despite the use of standard antiemetic regimes whilst under expert medical supervision, and severe refractory treatment-resistant epilepsy that has failed to respond to standard anticonvulsant medications whilst under medical supervision. expert medical supervision. The prescribed cannabis-based products are not authorised medicines that have gone through the normal processes for medicines to get a marketing authorisation, hence the requirement for the programme to access the products. There are authorised cannabis-based medicines for the treatment of conditions such as epilepsy, MS and nausea. As such, these are not available for inclusion in the programme and can be prescribed like any other authorised medicine in the normal manner. The Misuse of Drugs, Prescription and Control of Supply of Cannabis for Medical Use Regulations 2019, Statutory Instrument 262/2019, set out the legal provisions for the operation of the Medical Cannabis Access Programme and the legal obligations for healthcare professionals and commercial operators. Schedule 1 of the regulations is comprised of the specified controlled drugs, specifications for which are defined in the regulations, which may be included in the programme for patient treatment. Manufacturers can apply to the HPRA to have their cannabis-based product assessed for inclusion in Schedule 1 as a product that meets the requirements for a specified controlled drug as set out in the regulations above. Any addition to the Schedule 1 products is done by way of ministerial approval by statutory instrument. Currently, 10 cannabis-based have been added to the regulations for prescribing by consultants for their patients. The MCAP commenced in late 2021, and to date, 49 patients have been treated under the programme. 34 patients are for reason 1, that's spasticity associated with multiple sclerosis, resistant to all standard therapies and interventions. 3 patients are for reason 2, that's intractable nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy despite the use of standard antiemetic regimes. And 12 patients are for reason 3, that's severe refractory epilepsy that has failed to respond to standard anticonvulsant medications. Thank you.
Minister, you can understand why people are frustrated. I mean, the programme is up and running 2 years and only less than 50 people have got a viable prescription. Now, this review was going on forever. This review was first muted back a year and a half ago. And my last correspondence with the Health Research Board is that this is an ongoing review and it will be finished by the end of the year. So you can see the frustration, what people are feeling and so forth. The other issue, I'm not sure you'd be able to comment, is those that get it via licence. Now, not all those that have it via licence get reimbursed. In fact, there's a cohort of people which is ridiculous. You have a ridiculous situation. Those that have it via licence can't get reimbursed, but that same product is on the MCAP register. But because the programme is so restrictive, the same person that can get a via licence can't get onto the programme, and then they have to pay it out of their own pocket. It's a ridiculous situation that you have, and that needs to be that needs to be reviewed. You know, those that have to, as I said, via licence and have to pay themselves. And I think I just think the review and the programme, as I said, it's a good concept, but it needs to expand. Because if it doesn't expand, Minister, I just don't see the future for this programme at all. And we're going to be still in the same situation where people that could hugely benefit from intervention of medical cannabis will actually go without and have to go to the black market or go without. And that's not acceptable. So look, a lot of people have been kind of following this issue, particularly people that could benefit from medical cannabis treatment, but are hugely frustrated in relation to the lack of progress. So hopefully with the review, it will support the expansion of the programme.
And I'll pass on your comments as well to Minister Donnelly. And just in the original 2017 HPRA report, Cannabis for Medical Use, a scientific review, it was recommended that an access programme for a 5-year pilot programme that permits patients with the defined medical conditions to be treated with cannabis or cannabinoids prescribed by their doctors. Due to the drafting of the required legislation needed to commence the programme and sourcing of cannabis-based products, the programme did not commence until 2021. So given the passage of time, the Department of Health decided not to wait for 5 years of operation of the programme before carrying out a review. So the MCAP RCAP is currently undergoing an evidence synthesis review in relation as to whether evidence exists to expand the number of conditions covered by the programme. So this work has been undertaken by the Health Research Board on behalf of the Department of Health, and the evidence synthesis review will be peer reviewed, after which a clinical group will review the evidence synthesis to ascertain whether evidence exists to expand the scope of conditions covered by the programme. So this is expected to be completed by the end of 2023 or early 2024. Thank you.